Greetings, family. This is Kyle Dixon, co-founder of Precise Minds Filmworks, educator for 20 plus years, cultural enthusiast.
And I'm KAYODE Bentley, president and founder of 4T's Teaching Teens to Think, whose mission is to help inner city youth identify their inherent skill sets in order to complete their education, establish a career, and ultimately start a business, if they choose to. Professor at Fordham University, where I teach students who are pursuing their master's degree in social justice.
And with that said, welcome to the Grand Rising Collective, a podcast whose purpose is to cultivate greatness and excellence within ourselves and our communities. The name itself is from the morning greeting of Grand Rising, which we interpret as starting off the day with a greatness mindset so that we are able to rise to the occasion of whatever obstacles and challenges we may face.
And that's why we focus on engagement, relevant information, and empowerment for people in our communities who want to be and do better in their daily lives.
Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective.
Greetings, family. Welcome to another edition of the Grand Rising Collective. We have with you a special guest today. But before we go into that, we want to thank the people for subscribing. Please subscribe to the channel. Please leave comments in the channel. We are very open to hearing what you all have to say, some suggestions, some comments. And this one definitely is going to be another fun-filled, informational, empowering conversation we're going to have today. You have myself, Kyle Dixon, as one of the co-hosts, and have my partner in podcast or webcast show, KAYODE Bentley. And, this is us using this platform to better our lives, to empower our lives, again, to rise to the occasion, to be our best and excellent selves. So without further ado, I want to introduce a good friend of mine, fellow Fiskite, holla, come on, in the house, Mr. Leonard Tshitenge. All right, Tshitenge. Excuse me. We say don't leave the T out, right? Greetings.
Man, greetings, man. Peace and love, y'all. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me, man. How y'all doing?
You're doing good, man. You're doing good. Waiting to learn from you, bro.
That's it. We gotta learn from each other, man. Appreciate y'all, inviting me. My name is Leonard Tshitenge. Tshitenge. Y'all see that? Tshitenge. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, in Roxbury. But I'm also from by way of the Democratic Republic of Congo in Africa. I'm a poet, consultant. I specialize in performing arts, creative arts, and strategizing and with organizations who operate in diverse ecosystems. So, bottom line, I'm your African diaspora consultant, also mistaken for Denzel Washington. So, call me African Denzel or AD, however you want to call it, man. But yeah, man, much love, y'all.
Indeed, man. Oh, goodness, man. I mean, we got a special guest family today. So we want to have guests on here again, going global, not just national, but global. This brother is definitely global. So Leonard, man, let's jump into it, brother. Give us a little bit of your background, who you are, where you come from, how you ended up in Boston, because I know, you got a bit of that between the Democratic Republic of Congo, getting to Boston. I know there's a little bit of in between in there.
Right. Yeah, definitely, man. So I migrated to Boston when I was 15, 16 with my family, came from Boston. And then, we were supposed to migrate. I also grew up in the central part of Africa, Congo, Gabon. We were supposed to migrate in Europe, but I guess, my dad had connections. So we ended up in Boston. And then in Boston, I went to a multicultural high school in Boston, right? And then I was in high school. I remember one of my teachers told me that I was better than African American. And that was very confusing. I was kind of very confused about that statement because here I was, coming to America as a brother from the continent, trying to learn English, trying to learn the culture, but you're in high school learning English. You're in high school trying to understand race relations in the United States. So there was a lot going on. That statement really did a lot to me inside. So I took that as a challenge on an intellectual level because, knowing me, how I was growing up back in Congo around the continent, I was always about, intellectual stuff, understanding Black people. So here I went to HBCU, Fisk University, here to really understand just what does it mean to be a Black person, man? Black man in the context of a racist America. What does it mean to be a Black woman in the context of a racist and sexist America? So I took that as a way to understand challenge of colored people, right? The challenge of people of color. And from there, man, I became a poet and consultant, man, just do a lot of work in African diaspora engagement. So my background is mental health, psychology, and art. So as a consultant, I'm very unique because I merge art and mental health in everything that I do. So I was always struggling with that, you know, that duality. I'm like, I grew up in Congo, everybody was Black, the minority were white people, tourists. And then in Congo, there's no such thing as being Black or race relations. There's no racialization growing up. It's more of like culture, identity, nationality. You come here in America, you get that reality. So like everybody else, right? You know, so I think over the years, you know, kind of mastered that balance, that duality. It was like an internal struggle, man. You know, yeah, that's how I just got into Boston. And coming to Boston, you know, you don't really see what's going on until you kind of get into detective work and realize that Boston is a very beautiful city, man. I think we're very diverse, very entrepreneurial, but also racist in a sense. There's a lot of inequity, disparity. Not everybody's on the same page. Not everybody's at the table. So very entrepreneurial, but I think you got a lot of gentrification going on in the urban setting. It's kind of like everything that's happening across the country, every city. But I think my thing with Boston is I love the city, man, but there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of talents, amazing leader. I think a lot of folks migrate here from different culture. So Boston has a lot of racism, man. But yeah, man, that's kind of like in a nutshell, my whole story. If that makes sense.
It did.
It does. It does.
I'm processing everything you share with me, and it's interesting how you said that your teacher said that you were better than African Americans or something like that, and you had to struggle with that internal conflict.
Yeah.
What was that process like? Because I have a friend that I'm in contact with. His name is Chike Ukegbu. I'm not sure if you've seen him. And he shared with us that as well. And I never understood that. You know, you come into this country, you live in this world. In fact, we're treated pretty much the same,
right?
Based on the color of our skin. But I just started recently realizing over the past, I don't know, probably 5-7 years, that Blacks from Africans from the motherland coming here are treated differently.
Yeah.
By the whites in this country because they're perceived as not as threatening or something like that.
Yeah.
And that causes dissension among us. Us as a culture coming together. So I'm curious, and I would like to know, real brief. It doesn't have to be so detailed, but can you take us on like a journey of what that internal struggle for you was, and how did you overcome that? How did you block out or deprogram that training that you got from your teacher to where you are here today, where we are finally waking up and coming together as a culture, if that made it?
Yeah, great question, man. I think that internal struggle for me was very confusing and sad because, you know, and mind you, I was at the same time learning English, knowing English, but I was confused and sad, man. I even had some anxiety around that, like, why am I better because they're African Americans, right? But it's all rooted, you know, to the fact that you have stereotype out there. Many of us will come here, we kind of brainwashed to follow what's out there, the narrative. You know, Blacks are this, Blacks are ghetto, blah blah blah. You name it, right? It was very confusing for me. I was sad, so I used my intellect. I used this desire of really to understand the truth. You know, I mean, understand the fact that we're royalty people. Being Black is being proud, right? So I used that to say, you know what? Let me study. Let me find out the truth. Let me understand Africana study. Let me understand the Black experience in America, the Black experience in the Caribbean, the Black experience in Africa. Let me get into race relations. Let me get into. So I used that statement alone. I was angry, but I used on an intellectual level to say, you know, let me go to HBCU. I got accepted to schools in Boston, but I went to HBCU, opened my eyes, man. Met brother like Kyle, a big family of brothers and sisters. For the first time, I'm like, yo, they want to know about Africa. You know, they want to know about the 54 country, and I want to know about what does it mean to grow to be young and Black, and that's that connection between me and Kyle. And from there, I think the bottom line is it got me to the role of building bridges. That's what it comes down to, because at the end of the day, they still tap out there among each other. It's a human being thing, man. But when you get into us as a people, we just have to kind of share those experiences, invest in our commonality, But yeah, it was, and a lot of people are going through that internal struggle. Some don't know how to find that balance. You know what I mean? It can eat you alive, and then you still go back to your own community. They kind of fuel the stereotype, and it happens everywhere. All the groups, same way when we talk about Asian community, all black. So we all in this mess, man. But yeah, that struggle was confusing. It was real, man. And then I started to realize, I'm like, why everybody talking about their mothers? Where are the fathers? Why? That's what the teacher's saying. I'm like, oh, look us in Congo, big family tradition. We celebrate. What's going on in high schools? Where's my mom? I mean, fast forward, I got involved into fatherhood engagement too. But yeah, I stopped there. I hope that made sense. But it is deep, man.
That's good.
People don't talk about that, man. It's the same thing that we just got to talk about it. We just to have dialogue like this, man. Get brothers on the continent, get brothers from America like that. Just build bridges, conversation, and then we can build, man. We can build.
Very good.
Indeed. And speaking on that, Leonard, like when you and I met at Fisk at HBCU experience, brother, like
best experience ever, man. Woo!
I would never trade it for the world, brother.
Come on.
Never. You know what I'm saying? And just the conversations you and I and all of us used to have, being
3 a.m. in the morning, man. With our cookies, man.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Cookies between us, you know what I'm saying? Like starving, wait till open up, But like that, those building sessions for me, man, were very paramount because like you're saying, like you coming from the continent, also living in France for a minute, we connected on the poetry tip, on the artistic tip, because you MC, you know what I'm saying? We played ball. So in reference to what you're just saying, could you also speak on like that those differences that you started to maybe even pick up on, or maybe to encompass even in your daily livelihood, like living in America and then like going through the HBCU experience, but then also going into the white universities? How was that dichotomy, for you?
I think it was stressful, man. It was stressful because on one side of me, I'm at HBCU. I'm learning the Black experience. I'm learning Africana study. I'm understanding W.E.B. Marcus Garvey, getting to the Harlem Renaissance, getting to all of that as an African brother from the continent. So I'm understanding African American history. I'm like, oh, that's dope. We didn't know that back in the Congo across the Diaspora. I mean, and I'm over here like, people watch Coming to America. I hope that's not what they think America is. My thing is, we didn't know that. We didn't learn that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I took up on myself, and my fiscal experience was powerful. So that's one side. I'm like, I'm loving it, understanding African American history. Then on the other side, I'm like, where is multiculturalism? Where is cross-cultural understanding? Am I taught to hate the white man? You know what I'm saying? Is everything black? Is the world black? I mean, hold on. Okay. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I got to get back to Boston. I think locally and globally, I got connection globally. It's very confusing, man, and it can kind of mess you up because you got to choose. Sometimes you're forced to either choose hate or love.
Damn.
Because when you study history, you pissed off and mad. But what happened then when you tap into the royalty, to the history, to the ancestor, you tap into the beauty of studying all in Renaissance and Garvey, King, Du Bois, and you go back and look at pre-colonial Africa, all this kingdom, Lumumba. So my thing is like, okay, all this historical stuff, how do we use it on a positive tip? So I survive and use it on a positive level. I learned how to balance to just make the best out of it, look at the positive. But it can be a very confusing process because I'm like, hold on. I got my HBCU learning and I'm like, okay, what do I do? Everything black, the world black. So where's that balance? Well, on one side, I'm hearing, white supremacy is no joke, blah, blah, blah. On those, I'm like, being black. And I'm like, oh, I'm from Congo too. So I'm in the middle. So that's where it comes to mental health too. That's why I got into mental health. Psychology, realized that, we have a lot of change and healing that we need to do internally so we can fight this battle externally because we have war, right? You're fighting system, white supremacy. You're fighting this system of disparity. But we got to build internally first. Come together and heal. Yeah, I think Fix opened that door, and all the session me and Kyle used to have, we used to talk about that. So
Sure did.
yeah, man. It's,
Young scholars, you know.
Wow. By the way, Herb Brooks says, "Yo, that's my dude, Leonard the poet. What's good, fam?"
What's up, Herb? Good brother, man. How you doing, Herb?
So is that right? I don't mean to veer off too far on tangent. We're gonna bounce all over the place later while we got
Let's
you.
do it. Let's try.
But what's up with this? What's up with this poet, man? You a poet? I didn't read that.
I'm poets, man.
I ain't read that. Yo, Kyle, you ain't put that in the. What's up?
It's that.
Yeah, man. It started off with poetry. That's the thing. Poetry was that healing, that tool, because poetry was, for me, my poetry was based about just social issues, man. Just addressing problem, educating people about Africa, about the continent, about the Congo. And one of the things was I was using my poetry to really educate on American consumer about the fact that all our cell phone that we have here as consumer, you know, contain mineral, right? That's from Congo. 80% of mineral from Congo. So all the mineral that we use to build our cell phone. So the reason why you can text, the reason why you can have lighting is because of mineral that's needed to produce cell phones. And all that mineral comes from Congo, but we don't take advantage of it as a people. We're not educated about it. And at the same time, the Congolese people have suffered genocides and war while the entire world is consuming all the cell phones. So I was angry, everybody was angry, but at the same time, we kind of use that anger to make change, to empower, to educate. That's why poetry came about. Came out with my poetry book. Just really talking about poems, man, about African diaspora topic. You know, some of the stuff that we got to talk about with each other because we have so many stereotypes, man. We so brainwashed when we come to America, and the same thing when you travel. But we in 2021. The beauty is that I think that the world is global. There's a lot of hope and change. But poetry was that tool for me. You know, that helped me heal. That helped me put things together and then empower others.
Wow, yo, Kyle, you know how I do, man. I shoot from the hip. I got one more question. I'm cover that. I'm coming to let it, man. All right, so you just said like we're coming together. It's 2021. Everything is good. But how come we just had a situation where a young man was shot from his mirror descents? It's like we're back in the 1960s, man, with the social justice fight. How far have we advanced, really, right, compared to where we were during the civil rights movement? Like, really, like, are we like? Is obviously it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but is it more like 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back with regards to what's going on? What is how do you rationalize that? How do you use your poetry? How do you use your skill to find a silver lining in that, the trauma that we're facing even to this day? How do you do that?
And that's exactly why, you know, I'm involved in mental health and arts, because I'm using arts and mental health as a vehicle to kind of help us reduce those mental health stressors, institutional trauma, social determinant of mental health, because I do a lot of creative art events so I can address systematic disparity, so I can educate people about all the trauma that we have seen. And I think if you look back what the Harlem Renaissance did, I mean, this was a movement of artists. They kind of offered this new psychology of freedom, this new cultural identity. So my thing is, we have made progress, but we still have work to do. Yes. But at the same time, there's a benefits in the arts piece. So because as a people now, we're still experiencing a lot of mental health stresses on individual level, community level, institutional level. So what I mean is that, you know, on individual level, if I'm a brother, let's say, coming home from incarceration, I'm looking for mental health support, but I don't want to engage the system because it's white. I don't want to engage the system because I'm scared of social services. I'm scared of the police and all that trauma. So we just have to develop a lot of tools. It's all hands on deck. So first, let's look at historical stuff. Let's digest that. And then once we do that, let's look at things at the community level. What can you do locally? You got to get involved in civic engagement. Talk to a local politician. Understand who's your DA. You know, go to the CR, get involved, right? And then, you know, do neighborhood and neighbor stuff, right? So there's a way to empower each other at the local level. Like, for instance, when we have this situation that we see on TV, let's come together as a community. Let's talk about it. Let's talk it out. Let's offer some solutions, some strategy, and execute. So we got to do work internally. Because my thing is, I tell people, I said, listen, you can march all day. I get it. That's your right. You know, but we got to do work. I need some one-on-one. I need some brother. What you need, bro? What do you need? You want to start a business? All right, check this out. There's a business workshop next Saturday, 2:00. Can you be there? Why you show up? Let's start with me and you before we're talking about Trump, before we're talking about, you know, out there. I get it, man. Malcolm, Garvey, I love it. Let bam, 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 but let's execute. So sometimes you got to focus too, you know. Don't get me wrong, that intellectual side and started pre-colonial Africa, blah, blah, blah. I get it, man, but I'm saying let's kind of start small. One thing that I do a lot of one-on-one group coaching. Let's talk about training, workshop, strategy, and tip, man. Because you got to empower yourself. When there's no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot hurt you. Let me start with you, and then we need the neighbors, we the next brother. So I don't have the solution, but we all have the solution. We just got to keep doing together. You see what I'm saying? Because we can be out of focus, man.
Nice.
You know, I hope that made sense. But
yes, it did. Yo, this guy. One more question for those who might not know. You said we got to focus on historical stuff. What do you mean by historical stuff? Just for those who might not know.
So what do I mean by example? I mean, let's talk about lynching. Let's talk about lynching in 1930s and 40s.
Talk about it.
How black family, like, you know, you have black mothers was like, yo, you can't go outside, they're going to lynch you. That trauma alone, and for that parenting. Because, I mean, it's like, you know, I got to protect my children. I got to protect my child, right? So now it's like out of that, we have also picked up some behavior stuff that come from that system, right? So let's talk about lynching, and let's talk about now the trauma, the post-traumatic, you know, slave syndrome. And connect it now to modern day parenting. What the parenting look like in the black community. Do we still value marriage in the black community? We have systems that do not design for marriage, right? We have a lot of financial incentive that's focused on like one single parenting. So it's good to kind of study history to understand the era that we're in, what black parenting was like, what was like thriving while black in that time, and then connect the gap, but fill that gap with some healing. And then healing comes now, you know what? Let's support our mental health, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's get into that. But what does that mean to us? There's a lot of stigma that we got to overcome. That's one side. And then you got to bring it back. Like, you know what? If I'm looking at Harlem Renaissance in the 1930s or the Black Heart movement, let me bring that back. Let me be inspired by those. Let me now become my own Langston Hughes, my own Marcus Garvey, my own Claude McKay, my own Sojourner Truth, you name it. I mean, that's our strength. You tap into that strength and you're on fire. They can't stop you. You see what I'm saying? But internally, though, we broken, man. You know, that love for one another is still a struggle, man. I mean, even me, I preach about unity and stuff, but it's tough, man. I got to learn. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I can unite better with the next brother. Maybe I can show more love. I'm a professional. I'm also know how to engage folks in the hood. Let me just kind of, let's do better among each other. It build and empower, it strengthen you. When you got power in number, you're like, wow. Look at power. Look at Africa. I went to Congo. When I went to Congo, I'm walking to a store. The owner's Chinese and she speak my language. My wife was like, calm down. You know, and I'm like, this how she treat my people in our own country, their own store. So I was mad. But guess what? I had an American passport. So I'm like, hold on. I guess I'm using my American privilege so I won't get into a situation. But then I was mad the fact that sometimes our own people don't support. And I went to a Congolese store. It was empty. And I'm like, why is it empty? Because they're focused on supporting foreigners.
Damn.
So it's kind of like, and then you have your own government who don't really support the local. So my point is this, it's locally and global. I think it is the same struggle that we are facing as a people of African descent. If we just learn how to invest in commonality, if we learn how to invest, how to find a way to be creative, empower each other, so we can really focus on that, right? Then you're going to have white supremacists looking at us like, oh, snap. They're coming together. Oh, snap. From Nigeria with a brother from Harlem. You got a brother, you got a sister. Oh, that's powerful, man.
Very. Yeah. We're not playing games, family. We're not playing games. Not at all.
So
No. So Leonard, man, yo, what you said is doubly profound, man. And just like you're saying, the whole like We Buy Black movement, Shop Black, support Black businesses, that's been an uptick for the past year and a half, 2 years. But could you speak on, like I said, could you really go into, because I'm glad you mentioned that it's not just about the economics, but it's about the internal, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual aspect, right? And I think you kind of picked up on that as far as like reaching back to the Garveys, the Sojourner Truths, the Fannie Lou Hamers, the Phyllis Wheatleys, the Ida B. Wells, all these different people, like you said, that was during that time, but we can use that to inspire us now.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you are who you are, but it's like I'm pulling from all these ancestors. I'm pulling from all this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So could you speak on like as far as like, because you being in Boston, right? Because Boston's kind of like this city that's known to be racist. You mentioned it before, and it's but it does have a little bit of this like African history, especially when we talk about the boys, our alma mater, our alumnus.
Yep.
Could you talk about that, man? Just like the Black community in Boston. I know like it's Roxbury and
Dorchester, Mattapan. Yeah, Boston has Roxbury obviously is considered like that Black mecca for Bostonian, right? Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. But I think at the same time, so people like Prince Hall or Crispus Attucks was really big, instrumental. Like, Prince Hall, I think that was the brother. I think he was an abolitionist, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was about freeing part of the freeing blacks in Boston. And then Crispus Attucks, the brother who died during the Boston Massacre. He was a big symbol of African-American struggle for freedom and equality. So the thing about, but the thing of traditionally speaking has a lot of racism. I mean, you're talking about in the 70s, the whole school segregation in Boston. You're talking about all these inequities that's happening where so much disparity in terms of social practices and mental health. Because the reality of Boston is multicultural, but the United States Mental Health Service is not equipped to provide mental health services to people of color in Boston, even across the country. But I think what I'm saying is that where do we start first? Because there's so many stuff at the table where to go. I think first you got to start internally. It's a war. What's your strategy? Your strategy start with internally. We need a lot of healing, a lot of empowerment, because we've gone with so much trauma. You got to have a game plan how you just managing your emotion, throughout the process. How do you manage your emotion, right? When you face all this historical trauma, all this stuff. I think start internally, and that's why mental health is huge. How do we process all the historical wrong that have done to us? How does it impact us now at the community level where you look at the neighborhoods are changing, gentrifications, employment, all the disparity, it's never equal. That's the healing part. And then externally now, it's like, okay, how do you educate yourself? Because on the other side, there's resources. There's always something that you can do. My thing is, if you want to become a doctor, can a white man stop you? That's one conversation. If you want to become, a professor. So yes, we have a lot of injustices systematically. So, but you got to get involved into advocacy legislation. You got to get involved into. That's where you got to vote. That's what you got to be aware of. Like, you know what? We got a lot of mass incarceration here. Who's my DA? Who's district attorney? How come they got into a power? How can we educate and vote one of our own? Be the change you want to see. There's a lot of things that we can do. I'm saying that strategy number one, start internally, right?
Very good.
Also tap into your history. Tap into how our ancestors did. That's your strength. That's why Black history is supposed to be all year long. But that's your strength right there. Look all these historical figures. Tap into their strength. Get your internal game on. Heal yourself too. Be a better father, better man, better sister, better brother. Empower your neighbors. All of that. So and then externally now, let's sit down and just kind of come up with some game plan about how we're gonna build businesses. What Malcolm was talking about, because he was all about Black businesses, which I get that. We have to support that. So we just have to find different response to all the racial inequity that we see. But it starts locally, though. It starts at home too. Think about it. Home. It starts at home. The destruction of a nation begins in the home of its people. All the people heard that. The destruction of a nation begins in the home of its people. It starts at home. When the home is on fire, the community is on fire.
Right.
When the community is on fire, society is on fire. When society is on fire, the whole country is on fire. When the whole country is on fire, the whole world is on fire. It's like, when do we start? Yeah, let's start at home.
Family. Family. And KAYODE talk about this a lot. You know, the family structure is the foundational structure of community, society,
everything,
the world.
You name it. But we have systems now, you know, that don't benefit the families. It is what it is, you know. So, and the system that built on white supremacy model. So how do we change those models to an African descent model? So maybe we can look at how certain kingdom was raising people, or maybe pre-civilization, all this stuff, and then use them to change system, because the system is so white. Not to say that you have good and bad in everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that as a people of African descent, everything that we're going through, one way, what are some of the model that we just need new model, new ways of doing things, you know, that we can learn from history and then put it together and use it, you know?
All right, so Leonard, thank you so much. Now I'm gonna be an advocate here, man. I'm gonna be a naysayer, so to speak. And keeping it real, keeping it 100. And from your perspective, I think this is the challenge that a lot of people in our community and our culture faces. It's not like we haven't tried this before. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like we haven't tried coming together, working together, investing in ourselves, you know, and building our community and changing the economic landscape. We tried that before, right? And we have examples of what happened. The Tuskegee, right? Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
We have all these things that came against us. And also, I mean, how do you, like, I've heard, and Kyle and I've had this conversation before, we're living in a different age now, right? We're living in a different time. So it might not be the same, but for those who have that apprehension or apathy and like, yo, we tried that before, man, that ain't work. I ain't trying to, like, what advice or what words of encouragement or inspiration can you give them for those who feel that way? You know, we tried that working together. Look what happened. The government is just too strong. We can't.
Right. I think when you get discouraged and all that, look back into Malcolm, look back into Dr. King, look back into Jordan True, look back to all this movement, all the ancestors, just line them up. Look back at what about them? You know, they set the tone for us. You know, what about them? You know, they almost give up. They sacrifice everything, you know. So I say reach back into the love that you have for Black people. Reach back into that love. You're gonna get tested, you're gonna get challenged, right? They got tested too. So reach back into that Black love, man. And the reality, we can definitely go back into trying to build something similar to Black Wall Street and all of that, right? You don't even need a government and all that. You just need love. Show love with each other, empower each other, right? You may think it's small. It's a big deal, because right now you got to understand too. I mean, it's not a new conversation. We all divided, you know, all of that. It's everywhere. And how many times I sat down with Chinese investors or Indian investors telling me that they got their group economics going on. It's happening, but it's always about us too. Then on the continent, Congo, I look like, yo, we got to do stuff locally better, support each other, love each other. So my thing is, you getting discouraged, you giving up where, we tried that. No, don't get discouraged, man, because it's always something that we can do. You got to study others have done and be inspired, you know. But it's just hard. The reality is, yes, we know we can complain, and I get it, but we always, for me, my personal opinion, that we sometimes out of focus. You know, I'd rather focus. If I got money right now, let me invest in your podcast, right? Let me build a school about y'all trying to teach broadcast to the kids in the hood so they can have a voice. You know, let's start small, and I think it all starts back into you giving up. Don't give up, brother. You got to tap into our history, man. You got to study the kingdom. You got to start all the kings and queens. But
thank you, Leonard. One more. I'm gonna try this in. So, with all this wealth of knowledge that you gave us, Leonard, thank you so much for that. Awesome. And the community. What's your connection to the Black cultural legacy in Boston with artists? Crispus Attucks, Prince Hall, W.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X, Older Sister, L.A. New Edition. What's your connection to our Black cultural legacy with the artists? What's that about?
Right. So I don't have any directly connection because I was a brother who migrated from the continent. But what I've learned is that, kind of study, be familiarize myself with them. Because I think it was so inspiring for me to live in Roxbury, where traditional speaking is like the Black Mecca of Black student in Boston, to know that, wow, there's a history there. And New Edition, I mean, I grew up in a project, because when I migrated 15, 16, that Project OP, that's where New Edition was there like years prior to me. And it was a good kind of feeling to see like, wow. And these guys would always come back in Roxbury and give it back. So it was a good, I think it was a good way for me to appreciate Boston more. I was wondering, man, what are the history of Black people, in Boston and Roxbury? And in Roxbury alone, Dorchester, Mattapan, these are three key cities that have gone through a lot of poverty and disenfranchisement, but a lot of amazing artists and leaders that I'm always inspired by. So I was always curious about those people you mentioned, kind of studied and read on them, but I took that as a way to say there's a lot of talent around the corner. There's a lot of talent in Roxbury and in Boston, and the Black culture is well vibrant. And then you have a big African community too. You have Somalian, Eritrean, and they're going through their own struggle. And that's the thing about the city of Boston. I think in every city, I don't know, but I think in Boston, they don't have all the figure. You loop all Black people together, but I'm like, yo, African-American, Latino, but there's a lot of Africans group that's kind of like dispersed on their own. So Boston is very cultural. Boston has a lot of talent, a lot of gifted people, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that's, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I think a lot of times, we are like I consider myself part of the Pan-Africanist movement, but like, you being from the Congo, like I said, some of us being from Somalia, Eritrea, you still have your own distinct cultures.
Yes.
I'm saying?
People don't know. It's like, yo, you got to understand, us as African, it's 54 countries, 2,000 tribes. In Congo, I have like 2 ethnic tribes. So we have our own internal struggle because a brother from Congo come from that Francophone Africa, struggle a lot in America because you got to learn English. I didn't learn English, but if you're a brother from West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, that edge is ahead because you can learn English. And then you still have to speak on, I want to say differences, but we still have our own internal stuff. So think about, we do have our own internal stuff, and then you got to do your internal stuff with how African American perceive you back and forth, and then you got white people, so it's white supremacy, man. It has an effect in so many ways, man. Deep.
Yeah, deep. It's deep.
It takes a while for you to get it, man. I didn't get it. I mean, I was worrying about learning English.
Oh man.
I have one quick question, Kyle. I want to interject real quick. And this is to not just you, Leonard, but Kyle too. Kyle, Leonard, any ideas of how we can how there's what is called Babbel and Rosetta Stone, how they teach, Korean, Chinese and stuff like that. I would really love a marketing tool, and this is just a thought I'm throwing out, whatever that you have. Like if we could make learning the African language popular, like Nigerian, like English, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm here with everybody trying to learn English because the United States is a superpower. Oh, but what about, hey, let's learn Igbo. Let's learn, our own language. Bring that pride into our life.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, that's exactly the purpose of hosting the African Festival, because the goal is we're trying to bring talent from the continent and bring it into Boston, New England. And that's why celebrating diversity, equity, inclusion is about. And I think, there's an initiative like that happening in urban setting, man. You can learn that a new African language like Lingala. That's what we speak in Congo, Swahili. Yeah, so it's possible, man, because we can do it at home. But the thing is to implement that in the system that we're facing, that's the struggle. But I don't care. I mean, I'm just saying, build your own school, build your own language. So it is possible. I think we should encourage that, I don't know what you think now.
I agree. I think we definitely should encourage it. I'm currently learning Swahili right now, which is, trade language, Eastern African trade language. So many other languages, the native languages, the indigenous languages to our people all across the continent.
Yeah.
So, but that's just one step in me connecting more with my overall African heritage. But KAYODE is saying, and I think you agree with this too, Leonard, is like, that's a step to kind of breaking out of the colonialism's hold your mentality, your perspective on how you see yourself and how you see your oppressor, the colonizer, how you see your enemy. Let's just call it what it is, enemy. And also within that language, using that language to benefit you and your people to be able to get things done. You know what I'm saying? It's like if I'm speaking English, but I'm not really saying nothing, right? Hence mumble rap, but I digress. But if I'm not saying nothing, then what's the point of me speaking that language? Because I'm just wasting air. I'm just wasting breath.
And that's why I do a lot of business workshop where I do a lot of business innovation workshop, but I only focus on one model. It's called cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is your ability to network, to connect across culture and make money. So it takes learning certain skills. It's kind of like skill number one. Do you have the motivation and passion to learn other people's culture and then build on and make money together, like an interest? Like, for example, it's like, Kyle, let's say you come to Congo and, you see a land that you can invest. I mean, what does that look like? So I think that to add into Kyle's point is that if we can also learn how to network, how to build with each other, how to make money. That's why you have a lot of Africa, right? There's a lot of investment opportunity in Africa.
It's huge.
There's two narrative in Africa. You got the narrative on TV, all that, war, genocide, blah, which I get it, but it's not just that. Everybody's traveling to Africa for business opportunity. There's a lot of places on the continent where they need infrastructure to build a tech. They need IT. They need broadcast, like y'all doing. We go right now. I pick an area somewhere in Kenya or even Congo to say, yo, Kyle, they want to learn media, man. They want to learn tech. The government gets you some money, invest in. Here you go. You teach new skills. These are what I'm talking about. I think it's all about business innovation to it. Economic empowerment at the local level, how we doing it, also at the global level. And I think I'd be like, yo, we saw how to focus. Nah, man, let me build with you, man. Yo, let's go to Africa, make some money, and then come back here, because I feel like that. If you look at Ghana, look what happened with all the celebrity. They went to Ghana. The president of Ghana was like, you know what? All these presence of Black American in Ghana, what he did, he gathered the Minister of Arts and Culture and Tourism, and he invited Black American on the continent. Come invest and travel back and forth. So if we establish a system of talking about what Kyle was talking about, that
Mm-hmm.
healing, and then once you kind of overcome, let's focus on that win-win,
Yeah.
So,
awesome. Right. Real quick, in the comments, we have a comment by ISJ. She says, abibitbikasa.com. They teach African languages. So just for y'all to know that.
It is.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's what it's about. It's like, listen, there's so many resources out there, so many free stuff. It's like, yo, just breathe, calm down. Look what Cal is doing, learning Swahili. Don't depend on the system to do that, man. Don't depend on the government. Like at the local level, I tell people, listen, at the local level in this neighborhood where you are, community center, build a program. Go in there. You know what I'm saying? Go get your paperwork, build a program, learning African language. Get a consultant, people that's well connected. Yo, what about business in Africa, man? How can it benefit my neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Boston has a creative economy where what I've been doing, be that middle person to facilitate, build bridges, that consultant where I'm in both worlds, so I can educate better what Boston has to offer to like maybe in Congo, or what Congo has to offer to Boston. Mm-hmm. I just need somebody to listen to me and all us working together, just like what y'all doing right now. Mm-hmm. I teach that skills to a lot of young entrepreneurs on the continent, man. But some of these places, they're not tech savvy. Right. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean, that when you go there, they're gonna look at you like. So you have to get into cultural intelligence workshop to know that what's my first step if I go to a place where they don't speak English? What do I do? Mm-hmm. With a mindset of making a social impact with a financial return. Because you want to make money, but you also want to make a social impact. So let's focus on that, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean.
That's real. That's real. No, and that's one of the things we talk about, Lynn, is like, again, that economic impact. It's like once you get the culture down, then you can further, direct your energies toward making an economic impact too, because that economics affects the culture and everything else. And I also want to reiterate too to you and also just our listeners as well. We know that, and I've learned that it's just not about the money part. The money part is part of the equation, but it's not the only part. When people talk about like, I gotta make more money, and sometimes that is true. But then what about, like you said, connecting brother to brother, sister to sister, resource to resource? And I think that's the key component in connecting back to the motherland. It is the largest, it's the largest bank of resources in the world.
That's what, when Wakanda came up, it's like, okay, hey, I love Wakanda. The movie was dope, but it was personal for me because I'm watching Wakanda. It's equivalent to Congo because Wakanda was Congo. You see, Wakanda is Congo because Congo produced all the natural, all the mineral, the natural resources that you need to build cell phone, to build your laptop. I mean, to build your video game. You playing video game PlayStation, but do you know how they fabricated? Do you know the behind the scene where you have a people that have to go into the mines to kind of grab all these minerals, right? And then the rebels make shady deal with businesses, and businesses, when they hit here in the West, boom, everybody's lined up an Apple video game, but they have no idea that you are indirectly also contribute to a genocide. But that's why American consumers have to be educated about that. You have the power as American consumer to say, you know what, before I upgrade my cell phone, you know what I'm saying? I heard about the conflict mineral in Congo. What you doing about it, Apple? Because before I upgrade to that Apple, before I upgrade to the iPhone 12, do you have a policy that's conflict mineral? If I go to Target and Best Buy right now, is this laptop that I got going on, is the blood in there? So stuff like that. So all that. I'm not saying that, you know, you got to wake up in the morning and think about that because we got a lot going on. But what I'm saying is that let's kind of step back, find a way to be creative, educate ourselves because knowledge is power. You also heal yourself, you're educating. And that's what I've been trying to do in my work, man, you know, because that's what I mean that I'm the African diaspora consultant, you know. I do one-on-one group coaching strategy using art as a way to say that we can do that, but I can't do it alone. We just got to do it together. What we're doing right now is important because we're having this conversation. Too many people don't have that. So
it's real.
Thank you, Leonard.
It's real, man. That accountability, man, is important, man, especially with these companies that are taking these sources from the country and not giving back. It's like, and then, you know, we can get into a whole conversation, family, with the whole consumerism and hyper consumerism.
It's dangerous too, though. I mean, it's dangerous because, you know, even me, I was almost kind of dangerous because, you know, as a poet, I use my voice to have these poems about conflict mineral, holding companies accountable, but it brings attention to because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, I remember I was trying to do a workshop on Microsoft. we ain't ready for no conflict mineral workshop. Microsoft store. You're gonna run away the consumer. I said, that's not my intention. I'm just trying to educate. But they're gonna shut you down. It's a bigger fight, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's real. That's real. And speak on, man, because I definitely want you to talk about your art, man, and your poetry, because, you know, a lot of times people feel like art is not profitable or it's not valid because in America we love it, but then like we don't seem to support it enough, right? And but it's this weird like, you know, relationship. It's like, oh, we love it, you know, paint more, you know, sing more, talk more, but then when it comes to like funding, it's like, well, we don't know about that. So how do you, as an artist, again, I also have to add, you're not American born per se, you know what I'm saying? So how do you deal with that part of it? Because I know you mentioned the programs and everything, but how do you?
So right, well, I think the first question to kind of ask for that is like, yo, what are the benefits of art in general? Like, you know, and then that's kind of like, how can you be empowered through art? So I think the basics, you know, fundamental stuff to know that arts, man, can help you process and reduce, you know, the trauma, right? Arts can help you reduce mental health stressor. Art can help you manage your emotion. You know what I'm saying? It can help you adjust better to a lot of the stressor in your life and also everything that's happening on TV. And art can help you process also all these mental health stressor, the long list that's also associated with institutional racism, systematic disparity, inequities. That's one, if you know, for example, with the brothers in prison, many of them are artists, they're writers, man, they write. That's important thing in perspective. Art can help enhance cultural identity, man, a new psychology of freedom. That's the Harlem Renaissance writer. That's a perfect example because this was an art movement poets, a writer, dancers, you name it. They came together, this movement, to fuel this new psychology of freedom, new culture, identity. And art can also help improve organizational culture. It's good to have painting and visual stuff in the office as well. And art can help reduce stress and work. So there's a lot of benefit for arts, but yes, you have to make it money. So Boston has a very creative economy where arts and culture is huge. In the Congo, there's a lot of artists, a lot of artists, a lot of value, but at the same time, our government doesn't see the value of it. Mm-hmm. So my goal was, if I look at the city, Boston, where I feel like investor can really invest in a lot of the arts in Congo, we can bring that back here. You can see the value of it. So we just have to teach the people the value, the benefit. We just have to be creative. You can do a business workshop on really teaching people the model of cultural intelligence to build bridges. You know, like I said, cultural intelligence is your ability to connect, to network across business sectors, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, we just have to teach our people that value, and because there's a lot of money, and art has a different discipline too. I mean, stuff like that. Look at Senegal; they're building the biggest. I don't know if it's I forgot the name, but if you travel through Senegal and through a different part of Africa, art is there. The museum is there. We just have to take advantage of that too.
Yeah. All right. I have a two-part. It's going to connect. You're going to see. It's going to be kind of interesting how it connects. But the first question is, with everything you've experienced, different continents and everything, how did you encounter any Black hatred in America, being in France and America? And then I'm going to tie that into the next question when you answer this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad experiences. Like everybody got I have my share of bad experiences of racism towards, like, hey, you Africans, like all that hate. I'm like, wow, so much hate towards me, towards African. and then you look back in the African immigrant communities, like all that tension and hate towards African Americans. So it's back and forth. I think we all have a share, and it's sad, quite frankly, Mm-hmm. That's why we need healing. So yes, I've experienced my share of that, but I did not let it consume me. You know what I'm saying? I use that as a strategy to uplift, man, to empower, man. You know what I mean? And that's what my poetry came, because it's a way for me to engage audiences. It's a way for me to bring people together, and it works.
Awesome, you channeled it. Okay, Kyle, I'm sorry, man. I gotta hit letter with these questions. I appreciate this, brother. The recent murders of Black men and women through law enforcement. How do you feel we can empower and defend ourselves in regards to the recent murders of Black men in America through law enforcement? How do you feel we can empower and defend ourselves?
Two parts of it. I think one, have each other back, empower each other locally, right? And also support each other, mental health, support Black-owned, build businesses. What that does, because we tired, so number one, let's not forget to show more love. That's what we're doing. I think it's more powerful to see many of us coming together. And then the other part, also now trying to get involved with advocacy legislations, man, trying to, get involved into voting, trying to be informed of, what's the process of naming the chief police? How do we hold chief police accountable? Like for us, as a new mayor, Black woman, shout out to Mayor Kim Janey, powerful, and she's making changes. Boss, we have a dope Black woman district attorney, right? So I think that we know that it's the same old, we tired, but at the same time, by really have each other back, empowering each other, and then get involved with some legislation stuff too. You gotta do the work, man. You gotta get out there. We wake up in the morning like, yo, my neighborhood changes. Yo, they're building this. Yo, the police that. Either, become a police officer too, be the change you want to see, or get involved in legislation, get involved in doing something. Get involved into advocacy. That's one way, but I feel like we can always talk with each other, come up with creative solutions to complex problems.
Definitely. And then Linda, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that's one thing that I'm starting to see a lot of, and it's nothing new, but a lot of times we feel like we're always on the outside looking in, and it's like, no, we have the solutions, we have the resources, but like you said, it's breaking past that internal. I think a lot of what you're saying is that internal work that we have to do, and that's needed for all of us collectively.
Yep.
dealing with the trauma. Let's be real. We're dealing with the trauma of white supremacy. We're dealing with the trauma of looking at being viewed and treated as less than, and then also globally too. But that's that unique trauma, man, in the society of America that bounds us to kind of like this box, as we like say, like step out of the box, right? The box, when people really do the work, we know that it doesn't exist. They try to put you in the box. It's the mental, right? The box is the mental, but you got to deal with the mental though. And that's what
exactly
I want to ask with this COVID, like what have you been doing during COVID, doing your internal work, like some of us, and some of us haven't, but for those who haven't, how can they begin to do a little bit of that internal work, before?
That's a good question. I think have a self-care plan, because the reality, is that what do you start with? What do you do to take your mind off stress? What do you do? Come up with a list of things to do. Basic stuff, man. Walking, listen to music, stay active. I think be cautious, be safe. So the thing is, you got to have a self-care plan. How do you take yourself? How do you take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually? What does that look like? I mean, it's a struggle for all of us. I mean, we are in a struggle together, but I think the pandemic has challenging all of us where, it's like, wow, I finished this book throughout the pandemic. You know what I mean? My poetry.
Yes, sir.
And COVID has blessing and curse. It's like, So have a game plan. Literally, start small with yourself. So meaning this, have a game plan. Give yourself a schedule. How you gonna clean the whole house? How you gonna start with the kitchen? Start with the small things. Walk. Jog. Get involved into activity where you know that you stay active. Because I get it, man. You got to start with yourself first, right? So do a lot of self-care. What does self-care mean to you? Self-care is your ability to kind of breathe in between. Be mindful of your trigger. We get triggered a lot. You got to know your trigger. I mean, I've had a client that their trigger is white people, and it's real. The trauma is real, and then you have people who grew up in the 60s. They still here. They don't want to go get services because they don't trust the system. They're like, man, I've grown up in the era and it's still happening. I don't go to no doctor. They're gonna hurt me, So it's kind of like still in them. We just have to have better policy, better mental health programs. So part of my consultation too is like, how do we strategize about better mental health program for people of African descent for our community? You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm passionate. Don't mistake my passion for aggression. I've worked with a lot of Black fathers, man. Coming home from incarceration, want to re-engage in their kids' life. All they're trying to do is advocate for themselves, but you quick to say they're angry because you follow that stereotype. I mean, re-entry work in the hood is real, bro. It's real. That re-entry work in the hood is real because you got fathers who want to do right. They want to be involved, but you look in the system that always give advantage to the mothers, and people do what they gotta do. I mean, shout out to all the strong single Black women out there, mothers. But the reality is, the system is set up to really. I don't even know what to say, man. But I guess you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll say it for you. I mean, it's trick to prop up the Black woman as breadwinner to everything, the superwoman, what they call a superhero.
Yes, I get it.
But we know it takes two. It's the brother and the sister. It's the man and the woman. We know this, right?
But these programs don't benefit brothers. Don't benefit Black men. They don't. I mean, I'll tell people how many shelter you have for men. How many shelter you have for father? How many housing you got for father? You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of disparities in our neighborhood, in this hood, in urban setting. A lot of disparity that impact also our mental health, and it's huge because that's what I mean. That at the end of the day, for me, personally, number one strategy is let's talk about mental health advocacy. What's the program that's going to benefit us? How we process all these historical trauma, and then how can we heal, and then empowering each other, and then go out there. Because especially that's why I talk about reentry work a lot because they're coming home to neighborhood that's like, yo, there's no COVID-friendly jobs no more. I mean, research show that it takes at least 1 or 2 years for people to get a job, especially if you have a record. A lot of brothers got Corey. They want to start their own business. They want to re-engage. It's easy to hold them accountable like they did wrong, but it's like, where the support, where the services at? Where are the program for fathers? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh,
And they serve their time too, so they should get a fair shake, right?
so we got to improve reentry support too across the nation, across the city, across neighborhoods, because people are coming home to this neighborhood to try to re-engage, to try to parent, but no one is advocating for them in court. Child support is another conversation. So I've worked with a lot of fathers and men, really supporting them in their journey to entrepreneurship, supporting their mental health, because there's a long list of stability. People got to be stable. People got to have housing, got to have a job. And then have that corporate America where the Black professional also going through it. So we are going through at different levels, though. But we do have the solution among ourselves.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the brothers that incarcerated, sisters who are now becoming the newly incarcerated at a have a hard time getting, like you said, reentry. Speak on, man, you being a father, man, because I know that's definitely something you're very proud of. And speak on like just your relationship with your children, as much as you would like to, just to represent the climate, man, this climate that's going on now in the world they're coming into, and I guess what you have noticed about like their development and just what you're trying to prepare them for.
It is hard to be a Black father in America, to parent. Parenting is so hard in the United States of America. What I mean by that is that it's all about, well, first of all, me personally, I got two beautiful children, Ken and Isaiah. I went to bad divorce, but then I remained engaged. But I used that divorce experience to really engage fatherhood work. I was so pissed off and mad at the system treated me. It is my first time entering a divorce. So me being an intellectual and an activist, I use that as a way to really advocate for fathers, man, because I was like, wait a minute. Now let's talk about what does it mean to be a Black father in America in an urban setting, right? Because where's your support at if you're a Black single dad? You're looking for supports and program. Everything is women oriented. Single mother. Okay, what's going on? Hey, it's like, what's happening here? And that's a lot too. That's discouraging. And then oftentimes with Black family, the system becomes part of your life. Social services, all of that. So it does impact parenting. So for me, my ability to remain engaged in my kids' life, for them to know that is always being around, and me teaching them my value. Now my daughter's about to graduate from high school.
Wow.
She's a poet now.
Man.
She want to study social work and psychology.
Nice.
My son is 14, doing good. So parenting has gave me this deeper sense of responsibility and foundation. And then God is good. I got remarried.
Indeed.
But I think for me, like I always kind of pose the question, throw it out there, talking about, let's look at love and marriage through the lens of the gospel or African. Question is, what are the foundations of marriages out there? We know that we're in the United States of America. We know that, I get it, money, but is the foundation of your marriage money, or is it a spiritual foundation? Or is it marriage is a God, is it Jesus? What is the foundation of your marriage? Is it materialistic? So all these questions to ask. So for me, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I do believe you got to have a foundation. You got to know what you're building. I'm just saying, are you that tree where the tree is shaking, and if the wind come, you fall? Or are you that tree when the wind come and shake you, you shake it, but you can't fall? Because you got a strong foundation. So what's your foundation underneath there? So when we talk about marriage and fatherhood, how it affects our lifestyle, I think it's also very stressful when you may not get support from the system, because we're dealing with a lot of disparity, man. When I'm talking about mass incarceration, when I'm talking about that Bill Clinton bill back in the day, how did it affect the hood? How did it affect families? And sometimes you have sister that was like, you know what? I'm not going to tell the truth, because I know if I tell the truth, he's going to go locked up. He's going to miss his children. Black women have to make tough decisions too, right? Kind of like mass incarceration just impact families, man. So now here we are, when we talk about reentry stuff, families. But men, fatherhood, it's hard. It's hard in this hood, man. Like I said, you got good and bad in everything, but I'm just saying that we have to make sure that we are consistent providing support for Black fathers, you know.
Important to say, man. Very important to say, because again, we don't think about the other side of the equation too. It's like the women definitely need the help, you know, definitely for sure. Now, not taking anything away from that, but like you said,
but they know. I mean, come on, you walk into a community center, the walls like a family program. When you talk about family program, a family brochure, who be on the brochure and program the most? I ain't trying to start nothing. I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying. So yes, we are changing the narrative out there, people. Yes, we are changing the narrative out there. I think the cat is out of the bag. I think there's people that really get it. That you definitely need more program, more support towards men. You know, I know people will be quick to say, well, you know, men don't talk, men don't engage, men no. I mean, if a brother start crying, are you gonna tell him not to cry? So it's kind of like. So all I'm saying is that we can do better, making sure that we have support for fathers, for men, especially Black men, Black fathers. That's all I'm saying.
Indeed. Yeah, more, like I said, more initiatives and programs, like I said, community-based, where other men are getting together, showing other men how to do it. And that's one thing I've been a part of growing up, you know, having my background, of course, but also being a part of programs that they put me in that, you know, promoted principles of manhood. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yep.
And getting support. And like you said, you know, like people like, you know, men don't cry. Like, nah, we cry, we just cry alone. You know what I'm saying? No one's around, you know. So, you know, when you have other men that recognize that and recognize that that's not a deficiency of your manhood, that is a improvement of your emotional awareness. You know what I'm saying? That makes you more
you're human. Yeah, you're human. I mean, but you can't blame people, man. It's like growing up in the hood and neighborhood people, you know, it's not like you was going in high school and classes. You take a class about how to manage your emotion or how to be a father. You didn't learn to do that, you know.
Yeah, indeed.
What are some of the successful methods you and your wife use in raising your son and daughter in this society where our presence is seen as a threat?
Teach them values, man. Teach the worth, the value. I think it's all started at home. The worth, the inner work is important for me to know that you're a value and important. There's no human being above you, right? That's the kind of the part, the whole concept of when there's no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot hurt you. That value, and then you know that prayer life. What works for you, got to do whatever works for you. Whatever works for you, just do in your family at home. For us, prayer work. I think the foundation of being a Christian and God and all that works. And also now, just talking to my son about basic things. When you're out there, you know, be respectful, man. You know, be careful what you say. And at the end of the day, interaction with the police, my mentality is, yo, deal with the ramification later, man. Come home safe. I need you to be home safe. Do what you gotta do to come home, to go home. We can sue him later, even though we may not win, but I need you alive. I need you to survive. I need you know what I'm saying? Safety.
Wow. Damn.
Indeed.
That conversation is that real, man. That's when you talk about the difference in raising a Black boy and like Black children compared to white children, where that's part of that has to be part of the conversation. It has to be. There is no come home safe.
Come home safe. And then the scary part too is like, you know, you're a Black father out there too. It's like sometimes, man, you could be out and about, you at the mall, you may have a moment yelling at the children like, yo, you got people watching you. They might call the police on your social service, thinking like you're abusing a child, and you're like, yo, I'm just trying to parent. There's a lot of trauma going on around that too, man. They're scared like, yo, maybe I got history with social services. I'm scared to even shout, hey, don't do that. Somebody gonna look like, uh-oh. So it's trauma too. It's anxiety. It's gonna drive you crazy. Like, you know, I had, you know, I do a lot of coaching, man. I had that come like, yo, Leonard, man, you know my story, bro. I'm over here stuck, man. Because I got my daughter for the weekend. She's acting up. You know, I'm out of McDonald's, man. I don't know what to say, because if I say something, because I'm still working on my anger, a brother got a moment. Who's there for that brother? Nobody. You need somebody to kind of like, yo, and then you got to talk it out, because if I say something, they might call the police. So there's a lot of stuff that Black men carry, you know, inside, that when you're out there navigating the courts, nobody really sees it. Nobody really cares, right? So it's all connected to now to your questions about marriage and fatherhood. How does it affect our lifestyle as Black men, as men of color in America? So it's hard, you know. If you do father in an urban setting, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a conversation that has continually been happening over the decades, man. Multiple generations.
Generation, yeah.
Multi-generation. We talking about generational wealth, about generational like curses. But I really think the curses are just untapped and not dealt with traumas, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just generational things that people have been carried on just because they feel like that is the norm. That's like, okay, well, grandfather did it, you know, did it this way or acted this way, so I feel like I need to act this way. You know what I'm saying? And then it just carries on and just becomes like normalized. It's like, nah, like that's not how we're supposed to be doing things. We could do better. Like like I said, we're not in 1921 we're now in 2021.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people got to realize that, like, yo, you can, like, say, you can study or you can take things from those time periods, but we're now in 2021. So
yeah,
work in 2021.
You still have to be responsible, accountability. I'm saying, you know, I don't mind us marching against what the system is doing us, but can we march about accountability? Can we march and put some sign? Yo, accountability, responsibility, yo, accountability. Do that. That's the kind of work that I mean. And that's like the small stuff that I mean. You know what I mean? We also got to do your part, you know?
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. All right, so with that said, man, what are the causes you are fighting for? Accountability, responsibility. What are some of the other causes you are fighting for?
I like that. I made that up. No, right now at the end of the day, man, I'm fighting really to advance the cause of racial equity, you know, in the United States, man. You know, economic empowerment really across the diaspora too, and then mental health advocacy. You know, these are like my three key, because for me, my background, like in arts, mental health, and my cross-cultural background, I always use that in my work. So these are the three fight, because the reality, racial equity is huge because it's connected. Economic empowerment, it is what it is. I mean, living in a capitalist society where, I mean, it's different model capitalism, but yeah, we got to advance racial equity and then economic empowerment. And then mental health advocacy simply means that what are some of the programs that we can design that can benefit our people, that can benefit us? You know what I mean? These are the three causes that I'm out there fighting as an artist and consultant. Do a lot of one-on-one coaching, training, and just consult with me, man. I got you, man. I do a lot of strategy planning because organization, they're looking for people like us, you know. We are here.
Lenny, brother. Kyle, unless you have any final questions, anything.
I'm gonna go real quick just before we go into you know, with the recent passing of your DMX, brother.
Man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, like how that connects with the healing, but like outside of that, you know, top 5, bro. You know, we got in the hip hop, top 5. Most, I mean, you know, I'll give you. Look, I know you like football.
Why don't you go ahead and start?
Since it's you, I'm gonna do a special one because it's my top 5, but he's in my top 10. And Guru Gangstar Boston, you know what I'm saying? Top 5. Out of, you know, for dedication, you know what I'm saying? I do that one. Like Most Def. Let's see. I gotta put sister in there. I said MC Light because she's, you know, she kind of kicked it off, you know, as far as for me. And Andre 3000. Gotta pick one from the South.
Damn, all right.
Yeah.
Oh man, you killed me. That's wrong, man. That's so wrong. This is hard.
I can't.
Yeah. I did you the spot, man. You know, you the MC, you the poet, man.
All right, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna throw Tupac. You know, I think personally for me, because I learned a lot through him, especially from a person that really want to learn like urban stuff. And so Tupac, Cars one. MC Light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, gosh, Nas.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Why'd I forget Nas? That's
Yo.
more.
Damn, this is almost the balance, man. Damn, Rakim.
Okay. Right, the God MC. Yeah. Okay. All right, Kylie. You all right, man? You better represent.
No, listen. No offense to the women. No offense to the women, but it's hard for me to put the women in the top 5. I love the women. But
He said that. I did that. He said that.
you know what I'm saying? I love y'all, women. I love y'all, but I'm talking masculinity. Man, you know what I'm saying? No offense.
Yeah.
Kyle and Letty got your women up in there. So
yeah,
my top 5, number 1 is KRS-One. That's the teacher right there. You can't deny that. He's still kicking to today.
Yep.
Biggie Smalls, man, his lyrical genius. Kyle and I was talking about him a few weeks ago. His cadence with the words, all that. His expanding background. Tupac, coming from Black Panther movement.
Come on.
Brother, and what he say? Dear Mama. That's so powerful right there.
Beat right there.
That boom, right? Most Def.
Yeah, most
brother. I mean, the way him and I can't say Most Def. Maybe both of them go together, but I gotta give Talib Kweli.
Yes,
I gotta give from the grassroots.
Yes,
he have a compromise. You gotta give it to him, man. You gotta give it to. That's my top 5 right there, and I think it's unfair to put him in the top 5.
Yeah,
it's tough. Woo. It is tough. That's my list for today. You know what I'm saying? Like, because
I was with the leaders tomorrow. The leaders of a new school, like Boston Rhymes. Oh snap!
Yeah. Busta Rhymes leader the new school.
Yeah.
Common, Talib Kweli, because
Common
is too.
Common too. They're all good. Nas, man. You mentioned Nas is. I don't know. Where do you stand on Jay-Z? Like.
No, I love Jay. For me personally, I love Jay. So if I say Jay-Z, then Eminem will have to come next, and then
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. 50 Cent's in the game. I don't know. And then Snoop, Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
But I mentioned these because they impact me as my arrival to America, as me learning, because people don't know that. In growing up in Congo, even we lived in Gabon too, which is another country where hip hop was huge. I mean, I was an MC rapping in French, but we was all following Run DMC, like all that era. Run DMC, yo, we was, and then people don't realize that hip hop had so much impact on Francophone Africa back then. It was huge, but the problem is that on TV, the narrative was like Black Americans, they kill each other, they sell drugs, Black women are prostitute. That's but I knew through hip hop, from my understanding, I'm like, that's not true. And even though I couldn't understand it, we was trying to understand, but I knew there was something powerful, attractive about their culture. So then when I got here, listening to KRS-One, everybody, all of that kind of shaped my mind. So these are like that when it comes to hip hop. And then you get into. But yeah, man.
All right. And there's so many messages. So I walked the line on this one, but I have to say, regarding the crossover to extent from hip hop to business guru or business, I got to give it a 50, man. This guy
definitely
capitalized his joint
from New York.
Power on TV. He got the takeoffs from Power. He's in movies. That brother did that rap thing, transition into the movies and TV.
And products too.
That's what they're doing now. I mean, you got Ice Cube did that. You got
that's
Queen
right.
Queen La.
Right.
I heard Nas has got something big happening. And I think that's what it's about, economic empowerment. I think that if they can do it within this capitalist system, then all you got to do is just look out for your people, look out for neighborhoods, and look out for your community, and empower. Bring that some of down over here. If they can do it, we can do it too. I'm just saying, we can do it.
We got the power to it. Kyle, you wanted to bring up? Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, no. I just want to say, brother, man, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate the work you have done, are doing, and will doing, man, because this is the whole point of the platform, that people are actually doing the work. Like you said, that we can talk about it, we can plan it, but then where's the action? Where is it? So I just want to, man, salute you, brother, and say much love, man. Thank you.
Always.
And it's really Asante Sana,
One more thing before we end it, and you get your final words, Leonard. We had a recent passing, and Cal, you're going to bring this up. I hope I'm not interrupting you. About the recent passing of DMX. Man, before we got on this podcast, I was looking at some of the stuff he was talking about in regards to the struggles to his artists. I also saw a clip where he did regarding prayer, talking about sometimes, because they were like telling him, DMX, say a prayer for us or pray for me. And one of the powerful words he said was, sometimes you got to learn to pray for yourself. Because sometimes those people are not going to be there to pray for you. Sometimes you're not going to be in a position to hear prayer from somebody else. You got to be able to pray for yourself. And just looking at his legacy, man, and he's a crossover. He was getting into the movies and all that. What are your final words, or what are your thoughts on the brother DMX and this passing? Because I thought he was going to pull through, and his death really shocked me. And you feel the vibrations when someone like that passed away, like a Kobe. He's all up in there too in regards to his feelings and stuff like.
Man, I mean, listen, DMX was huge for the culture, man. And it's funny because that song, this DMX song that I always use to kind of empower me when I'm all fired up, getting ready to go out there, stop. I haven't used that in professional setting in a sense that I say you got to have your hype song, you know what I mean? And I think we got to honor DMX despite the naysayer, whatever you want to judge him now. We got to honor. He's an icon because you got to understand his voice was powerful, impacting the culture, the people better than all these whatever institutions. So we got to honor that. And then we have to reflect. We have to really understand that it's everything that we talked about. How people grew up, how trauma, how so much stuff happening, but he used, hip hop, rap as a tool, not only to impact people. And don't just watch TV for the media. I mean, this documentary, DMX has done a lot for the community, man. You know what I mean? He's our brother, he's our own. He's a human being. I think God loves him. And God has a final word, but we have to honor him. We have to really learn from his complex legacy. Yes. It's all about that journey of being Black men, father growing up in the hood. Nobody's perfect, but he's an icon. We got to honor him,
Thank you.
And my final word is the gift that you have become the gift to your community. The gift that you have become the gift to humanity. The gift that you have become the gift to your country. So we are gifted. Use it. You feel free to follow me on social media at Consciously Expo. On Twitter, Instagram, Consciously Expo. My website is consciouslyexposed.net. Y'all can say it, you can do it. Consciously Exposed. So,
what's the book, brethren? What's the book? The book that you have?
My book is Afroblues by way of Congo. It's a poetry book. It's a book that I use a lot in my workshop and my training because this book contains poems that will make you laugh. This book contains poems that will make you say that we must build a healthy society that brings happiness. And it starts with you. So I started on Amazon. Shout out to all the people who support Afroblues by way of Congo. They call me Afroblues by way of Congo. Back home, I didn't know America was home to all kinds of people. Like I didn't know all Latino. The first time I met one, she was beautiful from Puerto Rico, but I didn't know Spanish, so all I knew was "Mira que pasa lo siento." She laughed so hard and said, "Papi, you're so local." I'm like, "No, mommy. Once you go Congo, you can local." So are you from Africa? I'm like, "Yeah, you too, because Puerto Rico is part of the African diaspora. During slavery, the slave boat dropped Africans all over the globe. That's why you're a queen of African rainbow. But call me Afroblues by way of Congo. And whether you're from Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, the same message is global. That being Black is beautiful."
Woo! Yes, sir.
Thank you all, man. I appreciate y'all, brothers, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate you too, Leonard. Thank you so much. Hey, man, set your time aside because we're gonna do a part 2 with you as well.
Let's get
ready for that.
We'll come back. Had the lyrics ready, man. I got write my joints out. You know what I'm saying? So
awesome.
But no, definitely, family. We're gonna offer a special offer, Grand Rise Collective exclusive. You send us your email. First 2 send us the email. You get a free Afroblues book on us on the house.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Email me. First 2 people email us at the Grand Rise Collective here in the chat or whatnot. Send us your email. We'll send you the book on us.
Absolutely. On the count of 3, if that's it, we're gonna do our piece. 1, 2, 3. Peace.